Ladies, gentlemen, and dragons of all ages, with the Veilguard releasing tomorrow, a lot of players are going to find themselves hopping into a whole new world. Some of you who have played the previous games in the series will be entering, a familiar world, but the way that it works on a functional level is just very, very different. So whether you are a longtime fan of the Dragon Age series, or someone who just saw a clip of the combat and wants to check the game out, or anything in between that, let's talk about how to get yourself the best sort of start in Dragon Age the Veilguard, with a heavy focus on avoiding spoilers, but just highlighting certain things that you should probably focus on, as well as any more specific tips that I have too for the start of your journey. First things first, from the opening moments. In character creation, a lot of your appearance changes can be edited later on very easily, but probably the one with the largest effect on your combat experience, and one of the only things that you cannot change later on, is your choice of faction. You can, of course, make your faction choice purely on what you want for like the background or lore of your character. This is a role-playing game, after all, but these also have an effect on your actual combat ability in various ways, so you want to make sure that you pay attention to what the factions offer. If you want to go for big critical hits, there's a faction that does that. If you want to stack damage over time effects, which are called afflictions, there's a faction that makes those better too. If you want to just have more health and defense, you get the idea. There's options for a lot of different playstyles, and whether you make your faction choice based around the character build you want to make, or if you end up making your character build around the faction choice and the bonuses you got from that, either way, you should consider your faction because it shapes the way that you interact with certain characters, it has a heavy impact on the actual history of your character, and it importantly has a massive effect on combat itself across the entire game, if that's something that you want to choose is based around. Past that, dialogue across the game is heavily based on your own choices, all of which are voiced, which is nice too. This is a staple in BioWare games, of course, and a fair few of these choices will either just impact future conversations, things like companions remembering something that you said, or you may just fully affect a companion on a much deeper level that actually changes the things that they do with the rest of the story. Sometimes it's a very visually obvious change, as if to say, hey, these people exist and your actions have consequences, and this is what they are. So basically, the more time and effort you give to the dialogue, the more actual thought you put into your choices, the more that you will find it rewarding later on in the game. You get what you give, sort of thing, really. On the note of companions then, we should talk about the combat in general. It is vastly different from previous Dragon Age games, and having put a fairly large amount of hours into playing it now, it honestly just feels pretty good. It's not going to redefine action RPG combat, it's not going to win awards for just completely revitalizing the whole genre, but it feels very fluid. It's flashy, there's timed parries that feel good to do, there are perfect dodges that can have unique animations, there's tons of different combinations of abilities or skills, and all of this combines with your companions too, who you have complete control over. It's important to mention that in this Dragon Age game, there is a very stark difference in the power potential of a companion and of the main character, so you build your companions up, but one thing that you can focus them around is just making you stronger yourself as the player. And if you get a good set of abilities going on yourself and you get some solid gear on to support it too, it's basically just a power fantasy style experience where you chop through everything in your way, looking like a badass the entire time. There is depth to this combat, and you can feel it more if you go on higher difficulties, but there isn't a massive amount of depth, just enough that, once again, if you put in a little bit of effort trying to understand it and work it out, you will notice a reward in how it feels to play the game from that point forward. Right from the get-go then, you will have the ability to change the appearance of any items that you have equipped. This means anything from weapons to armor you can make look like any other appearance that you own. You get a lot of these either from quests or from various shops around the world, and these just let you totally customize your visual look and your aesthetics without negatively impacting your actual stats. You can build the power that you want from your gear and then still look fashionable in whatever way you prefer afterwards, all the way to making axes look like swords or things like that too, or even just being able to make sure that you never have to wear a helmet, actually visually speaking, so that it's just hidden forever. On top of that topic, let's talk about how equipment works in this game, as it is a bit of a robust system, at least at first, but I will try to condense this down to just the most necessary bits, as we will have a full video going into this in detail in a couple of days. All weapons that drop have a damage stat and a stagger stat. All armor has a defense stat and a % ability damage increase. Belts cover potions and healing, and jewelry is a bit more abstract in specific bonuses. All of your weapons and armor armor will also have traits associated with them too, and these will be locked when they are gray rarity, which is what most of them will be like when you first see them. These will unlock the actual traits as you increase the rarity of the items to green and then to blue and beyond. Rarity increasing is done either by finding a second copy of the same item out in the world, a duplicate, or by buying a second copy, usually from faction shops specifically. There are also stat increases that you can do to gear 2, which are the +1, +2, +3, etc. on these items, and these simply increase the base stats, the damage and the stagger for weapons, the defense, and the ability damage for your armor. These are done through the Caretaker's Workshop in the Lighthouse, which is unlocked in Chapter 3 quite early on. The more you upgrade the Caretaker and his workshop, the higher versions of these items you'll be able to find when you open chests out in the world as well, not even just the upgrades that you can do in the Lighthouse. On which note, this is a game that straddles the sort of line between an open world game and a more linear RPG. It gives you a fair bit of freedom, but it's mostly a choice between multiple set paths. On each of these paths, there are usually the main correct way to go, and then a slight clear bit of exploration just beside it that you can either see or get hints of until you actually engage with it. The side exploration is almost always worth doing in this game. The bigger chests with actual things inside of them will always be marked on your minimap so you know what those are, but even things like gold or crafting or upgrade resources are just lying around the place everywhere, and they are important to have for upgrading different parts of the game. Exploration can be as simple as checking what is sold at each vendor as you pass in case they have a permanent stat upgrade, because quite a few of them do, all the way to finding an Evanurus altar, which gives you a short activity to complete for a permanent maximum health increase, or even more importantly, the Fen'Harel altars, which, when activated, will point you in a direction and start a sort of spirit wolf howl sound effect. Find the spirit wolf where the sound is coming from, and you'll get a free bonus skill point for the entire rest of the game, and there are a fair few of these around. Exploration is limited, but it's pretty much always rewarding, to put it simply. Moving on, just a quick couple of notes about the skill tree itself and the ways that you progress it. You can sort of plan out a route of where you want to go with the skill tree. Specializations can't unlock until level 20, but because of the free skill points from the Fen'Harel altars, you may find yourself with unexpected points. This could change the path that you want to take, and if so, it's actually really easy to just reset skill points at no cost. The other thing though that I want to mention here is that you can show the details on any skill node to get more information about specific terms used. You can learn what shock or bleed actually do, you can learn what precision is as a buff, and these are all terms that are used in various places across the game and can be very important for putting your actual build together. And it explains terms that you could otherwise see on things like skills or equipment or even on your companions. And knowing what each of these things do and what they mean is actually quite important. So mostly I just wanted to make sure that you know that this button exists, as it will help you out a lot in learning how to put your own sort of setup together within the game. And in my own experience, one of the best things that you can do, especially in early game if you want pure power, is to build into afflictions, the damage over time effects. Building into these heavily and building into multiple different ones to sort of diversify your damage over time is really good, because then you can apply multiple of these effects, have them all be draining your enemy's health and melting these health bars down very easily by doing this. Then past that, the last thing that I really want to talk about is the player hub itself, the Lighthouse. This is basically a full-on complex to live in with all of your companions, each having your own separate living space within, but still living together close enough to be able to interact as a result. There are even a couple of puzzles hidden around this area if you actually explore it, and you have the ability to change the decor of the place too, depending on what you happen to find or purchase out in the rest of the world, with the ability to change tiny things like just what's sitting around in your bedroom, on your wardrobe, etc., to even changing up the main statue in the plaza outside of the main building if you find other options for it. It's not the most complex system, but it does add just that little bit of extra immersion for people who like to really customize their own sort of space. That just about does it for today then, everyone. Your full sort of starter guide to get you off on the right foot in Dragon Age the Veilguard. This is just sort of a large spattering of different information that I think will be generally useful to know for when you dive into the game for yourselves. Some of it just to help you get acclimated to these specific systems a little bit quicker, some to help you avoid missing important interactables early in the game by just knowing that they exist ahead of time and to keep your eyes open for them. Others just tips from my own time playing that definitely would have helped me to know about sooner. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.